It's a different type of person that says, yeah, I think I can walk for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and I can do that 3 days in a row. And I want to understand, and I'm intrigued by the person I'm going to be on the other side of that, right? Like, what can I learn about myself if I can go through this process? And then the patience that I learn, the grit that I learn, the discipline that I learn, the confidence that I build in myself from taking on something that seems insurmountable right now, and then I go and do it. How might I apply that in other areas of my life, right? So if you're 16 and you're 18 and you do this event with a parent or a mentor or whoever it may be, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you have this unbelievable gift of, well, if I can do that, I can sit through a job that I don't love. I can work long hours. I can deal with this illness if I've dealt with that before. If you're maybe in our stage of life, 40s and 50s, you're at a place where you're saying, hey, look, like I still got a lot left in the tank. There's a lot left I can do with all this time left on my life
This
calendar.
is the Business of Advice podcast, where we help good advisors become great business owners. Welcome back to the Business of Advice. I am excited to welcome Marc Hodulich, who is not only a fantastic entrepreneur, a extreme endurance athlete, and the co-founder of 29029 Everesting. And I think Marc's journey is a testament to what happens when you combine grit, innovation, and passion for building community. Before launching 29029, Marc founded several nationwide event series and has competed in a ton of what we'll call extreme endurance races. But him and his team created 29029 Everesting, which is an event that challenges people to hike 29,029 vertical feet over a 36-hour period of time, which has really attracted a lot of just everyday athletes and has inspired people to push past limits and has built an extraordinary community, which we're going to talk about on this show. So, Marc, great to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you, and welcome to the Business of Advice podcast.
Yeah, Cody, thanks for having me. Humbling intro. I don't know that I've done that much, but certainly at 29, we've redefined who endurance and ultra endurance events are for. And it's just been a really exciting journey over the last 8 years, kind of seeing people put something big on their calendar, get the support that they need, and really surprise themselves at a point in life when I think we're all probably getting to the place we're getting a little too comfortable. And 29 really shakes things up for people.
So maybe start there. And we had Jesse on at the podcast before. So Jesse Itzler, I know, was a partner with you in building this. But so for people who aren't maybe even familiar with this world of extreme endurance events, can you explain like what that looks like? Like maybe even start with 29029 and really what that looks like.
Yeah, not only Jesse and I started, we sold the business and bought it back together, and we're still partners. We're both crazy enough to continue to work together and be close friends. Well, the idea of 29029 was to give people a turnkey, amazing story to tell, right? What are you going to do in 2026, Cody? Well, you could come and do one of our 7 mountain events or our trail events. And where we started was renting a private mountain and challenging people to hike up the mountain. This is not a race. People are not running it, right? Hike up the mountain, take the gondola down, and repeat it, with the ultimate goal being to ascend the vertical equivalent of Mount Everest, 49,029 feet. So it kind of started with like, are you up for a challenge? Do you have what it takes to Everest, right? And what we did was we made it turnkey. So a lot of the barriers to entry that I found amongst my friends when I got into ultra endurance sport was like, well, maybe I want to do that race, but who's going to coach me? What's the training plan? Where am I going to stay? My family wants to come. I got to book dinner reservations. I got to do all that stuff. And it was like, well, let's just make it easier. Let's give you training. Let's give you access to the world's best endurance coaches. Let's include accommodations. Let's include all the food and beverage. And let's make it easy to say yes to something. It's going to be really hard to do, but it's really doable. And what I would say is like 8 years later, what we found is, the majority of people who do our event have never run a 10K, much less a marathon or an Ironman, right? They're going to do something that may take them 20, 26, 30 hours, but it's walking slowly uphill, right? It's very doable, but it's the duration and it's the size of the challenge that it becomes way more mental than it is physical.
Yeah. Having so many people that have done it, the mental side of it, everyone comes back talking about, it's just to repeat that process and not get a lot of sleep and the pain that comes with that. Walk a little through, like what do people, because you said something that's interesting. I've seen it with some people here who maybe had never even really ran and, have went and completed that. What does the training look like leading up to it?
I mean, look, it's a lot of time on feet, right? I mean, we have strength exercises. We have 4 different levels of the program to kind of meet you from someone who's never done a 5K before, doesn't run, will never be a runner, to people who have done ultra endurance events before, right? It all through a level or a training program are designed to allow you to finish within the 36-hour cutoff. But a lot of it's going to be starting out 4 to 5 months before the event with walking, right? Hiking, spending time on feet, then doing strength building exercises for your legs, and then ultimately building up just a couple training days. There are going to start to be simulation days where a lot of people start to get together, right? We have this community map where people find out like, oh, you're in Richmond, I'm in Richmond. Let's get together for the 8 hour training day. And what are you doing to that training day? You're walking for 8 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not to say there's not running available at other tiers, but for most people, it's meant to be a hiking challenge. So it's getting used to spending a lot of time on feet and building what we would call zone 1 and zone 2 low intensity cardio ability and aerobic ability, and being able to do that for very long durations of time.
Yeah, it's fun watching the people prepare for it. Thad, who is my chief of staff, who hollered at you before we started this, like just watching the preparation he's put in, transforms people too, right? Just preparing for this thing's pretty incredible to watch.
It's an entire journey, right? It doesn't have to be in a whole lifestyle change, but it does reshift your priorities for 4, 6, 8, 10 months, where you're going to naturally start cutting out some things so you have time to train. You're focused more on recovery and maybe the foods you put in your body, and then you start getting results. And I think the amazing thing about endurance sport really is that it is cumulative. And you may not feel the effects week 1, week 2, week 4, but suddenly your body's different by week 6, 8, 10, 12, and you don't see these little incremental progress, and you feel like you're plateauing, and then all of a sudden you have a level of fitness that maybe you never had before at 50 years old. Our average participant's 50, right? And you're learning things about your body, you're trying new things, and you're building strength and cardiovascular ability at a point in time when most people are starting to slow down. And
Yeah.
that I think is most exciting, is it can jumpstart your health span and what else you can do on maybe, the back nine in your life.
Yeah, it's kind of watching the compound effect in real life over those months leading up to it with so many of the people here that have trained for it. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because full disclosure, I've not done it, but have a lot of friends that have done it. Some like Thomas, who's done it like 15 times, I think, or something like that. But everyone comes back. And so there's really 3 things I want to try and pull out of you today. One is the evolution of it. So I want to talk about that from where you started to where it's at today. But then everyone talks about the experience it's created. So kind of this client experience. And then everyone comes back talking about the community, right? And how powerful the community. So I'm going to try and pull those things out of you. But let's start with you kind of shared the evolution of this idea and making it turnkey. Now I think you'll have 7 of the Everest and 2 of the trail run things that are spin off of that. How have you seen that evolve over the years from where you started with this idea to what it's become today?
Well, I'll touch on what you talked about from client experience. I think we're Jesse and I are aligned. We founded the business, and then also with the co-founder Kyle Brady, where we were really focused from day one was maximizing the participant experience, right? So everything was done with building a great product, but caring for the customer the most. And this became kind of an opening keynote that I would give at events, and over time I think people heard it enough where I've transitioned from it. But originally we started the business with 2 rules: no assholes, excuse my language, right? And that meant partners, vendors, participants, employees, and caring the most, right? And so I think the community that's been built is a natural reflection of what we put out, right?
Yep.
The you versus you challenge. There is no beating the other person. There's no course records. There's no first place finisher. It's self-scored, right? Like every time you hike the mountain, you take our custom brand, which is this logo on a cattle brand, and burn it into a wood board next to your name. You're not competing against other people. And I think the people that are drawing to say, hey, I want to do something that I've never done before, you're going to be vulnerable, right? You're going to feel supported. And so I think the word community comes up a lot because there's actual natural connection that is taking place between them. They're actually meeting and sharing space and time with other humans where they're not trying to beat them in something, right? We're not talking politics. We're We're not on opposite sides. We're all in this together. And I think that just creates a natural environment and container for real connection to happen. And then from that becomes community. So to go back to what you said, where it really started from was focusing on the customer experience first and over investing in ensuring that we were giving people an opportunity to be great for those 2 days. And then taking that feedback, right? We didn't nail a product year 1 or year 2 or year 3. I certainly had a vision. Colin and Jesse supported that vision. And they had their own visions that we tied together. But things did change a lot those first couple years, because what initially started off, which was going to feel like part challenge, part curated, amazing Daim experience and entertainment, and part networking event, really became all about the challenge. And so in years 2, 3, 4, 5 plus was, let's invest in coaching, let's invest in nutritionalists, let's invest in mindset experts, let's give people that have never done an endurance event before or even a race of any sort before every tool they need to have the best chance of success, right? Because it was really about supporting them throughout the entire journey, before the event, during the event, and then even after the event, right? And so I think that that's where we found our sweet spot, is really focusing on that customer experience throughout the entire journey.
Yeah, it's funny. Even Thad and I were talking, because you go to some incredible destinations, where you have these, obviously think some great mountain resorts and stuff. And he's like, man, you're so tired, you don't even realize where you're at hardly. It's like, competing through this. So as you've made that evolution of it through the years, like you talked about that, taking feedback, and I think what you're saying is like you thought it was going to be these 3 things, but it's really just turned into the challenge. So, what I hear them talk about is, the aid stations along the way, the pacing coaches, coaches that come alongside you, help you walk, nutritionists. I know you mentioned like, hey, you need electrolytes, or you got too many electrolytes, or you need more food. How do you think about those touch points for your hikers, and how have you maybe taken the feedback from the people that have participated to constantly improve that?
Yeah, look, I think it's one where we want to provide a lot of support, but you still got to do this, right? You have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a bit, right? You're going to have to be willing to be cold, wet, tired, and hungry, potentially at some point, or during a lot of points in the event, if you want that end result. And so I think you have to be willing to put yourself in that arena. And then if you are, we want to give you access. Everybody's body is different, right? Everybody has different sweat rates. Everyone has different fueling needs. And it's like, look, we're going to give you access before the event to world-class experts. And then we're going to encourage you, go get sweat tested. Go figure out how many electrolytes you lose. Zebly may lose way more salt than I do. So he needs to replace a lot more electrolytes. So there's no one size fits all. We give you access to those resources, where every other event, it's figured out for yourself, right? Like you sign up for an Ironman, you don't have these resources available to you. Everybody's answer may be different because everybody's body's individualized, but we want to make sure we're filtering the best in the field so it's easy to get that information from them, right?
Yeah.
And then during the event, it's just listening, right? It's like, okay, what are people eating more of? What are people eating less of? Do people want real fruit? Do they want gummies? Do they want gels? And I think always focusing on the participant experience has meant we don't have a specific sponsor that is all of our fueling, right? So it's like walking down a Whole Foods aisle when you get to an aid station, because people want a choice and selection. So it was like, let's be different than other endurance events. Other endurance events take the cash that they get from a product sponsor, and you have their goos, their bars, and their gels to choose from. Whereas for us, we have many different varieties, but then all the different types of whole foods and all those different other types of things. Because for most people getting into something like this, the nutrition aspect of being able to eat their way through one of these events is a learned skill. And having a lot of options has been something that's been very valuable to people.
Yeah, I think as a entrepreneur thinks about that in their own business, whatever that business is, like trying to customize to the client's taste, needs, desires, what they have there is a really important lesson. I think one of the things, and there was a great article in the Washington Post just from a couple of the hikes ago. I don't remember which one they were at, but I know Damon Parker, who runs a nonprofit that we helped start here, was featured in there along with some others. But what struck me about that is you had there was a story about a teenager and her mom there. There was a story about, I think it was a financial advisor that may work with Thomas that's like in his 70s. You had Damon here kind of representing this nonprofit. You guys have attracted this huge range of like people that are coming to that. What do you think has been so appealing to such a wide range of people, or is there a common thing that you've seen amongst that group?
I think the most common thing is that people want a challenge, right? In that if you create an environment where you can attempt something for the first time and know that you're going to get support, it becomes much easier to say yes, right? Ironmans are very intimidating. I've done them. It's a phenomenal organization. But just the swimming aspect, just the biking aspect for people can be very intimidating. Almost everybody can walk, right? And like you can walk, the potential you can walk for a very long time, right? And you can walk uphill. And so I think it is approachable because it's something that is doable for the vast majority of the population, but it's only a select few that are going to say, I actually want to do it until I climb 29 feet. Or at our trail event, I want to hike 3 mountain marathons in 3 consecutive days. Almost no one runs it, right? You have 12 hours to cover a mountain marathon. That's a different type of person that says, yeah, I think I can walk for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and I can do that at 3 days in a row. And I want to understand, and I'm intrigued by the person I'm going to be on the other side of that, right? Like, what can I learn about myself if I can go through this process? And then the patience that I learn, the grit that I learn, the discipline that I learn, the confidence that I build in myself from taking on something that seems insurmountable right now, and then I go and do it. How might I apply that in other areas of my life, right? So if you're 16 and you're 18 and you do this event with a parent or a mentor or whoever it may be, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you have this unbelievable gift of, well, if I can do that, I can sit through a job that I don't love. I can work long hours. I can deal with this illness if I've dealt with that before. If you're maybe in our stage of life, 40s and 50s, you're at a place where you're saying, hey, look, like I still got a lot left in the tank. There's a lot left I can do with all this time left on my life calendar. When am I going to fill it up with other types of things? And so I think that there's something for everyone. And then look, we've had people finish as late as 81, 82 years old. And they're still like, I want to live life, right? I want to enjoy nature. I want to enjoy fitness. I want to be around other people and be inspired by those 16 and 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds. So, it appeals to a broad range of people because it is doable to all of those people, but it's not easy. And I think it's the fact of this is not a guarantee that is appealing to people. It's the 98.5% of people that toe the line at a marathon finish. 90% of people do an Ironman finish. We have a 70% finisher rate. That's not abysmal, right? But like, if you sign up for a marathon, you're going to finish it. Most people sign up for Ironman are going to finish it. This is going to test you mentally way more than those events for the most part because of just a duration of how long it's going to take.
Yeah. It's interesting because knowing some people that have not finished the first time, a lot of times they do finish the second time. And I think that's the big thing I hear from almost all of them. It's like, now I kind of know a little bit more what to expect. It wasn't so much the physical side, it's the mental side. Once they get through it, they're like, okay, now I know what I got to prepare for. Something you said there that just kind of struck me. And so most of who listens to this is financial advisors. I know some other people will listen to it, but that's our primary target audience. And most of our advisors are focused on people transitioning into retirement. And so I'm not making it sound the same, but the reality is, like, that's a really scary challenge for a lot of people. You're walking away from this, income, this job, this identity that you've had for a long, long time. And it just kind of struck me when you said something, the better you can do of showing them how you're going to support them through this challenge and making it a doable thing, the better you're going to build that community there. So just kind of as I think about what our advisors do, so much of it is that. How do you show these people and demonstrate that you're going to help them navigate this challenge that, is something that they've never faced before?
Well, without a doubt. And think about the conversations. I think about conversations with my advisors, and I know a lot of them have. It's the mindset shift from, you're going from this abundance mindset, right? Where you're bringing in income, you're saving. So now it's preservation. And like, even if you're not going to manage your own money, those are two different skill sets, making money and then learning how to, protect it and not get into a scarcity mindset as well, right?
Yeah.
It's a very hard mental shift. And so I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from doing things like this, about saying, hey, like, this may seem scary, but there's a process here. People have done this for a long time.
Yep.
And you can't give up or freak out on the first summit, right? You know what I mean? You have to be patient. You kind of have to trust the process, and you have to kind of be committed to the process and the journey. And then if you are, you're going to get the results that you probably should get.
Yeah. It's, well, there's two things that hit me when you said that. One is, so many of our advisors use like the story of Everest as an example of, right? It's most people, the story, I don't know if it's true. It makes for a great retirement story, right? Is most of the people who hike Everest actually struggle the most on the way down, so it's like having a good guide or Sherpa to guide you down the backside is really important. But then you said something else. I think that I would say most advisors that we work with would say their biggest challenge is getting their clients to be comfortable spending money, like making sure they know, like, you're going to be fine. Like, there's hardly any way that you could ever run out of money, but like, go spend it. And it's just such a mindset shift, which is so much of what I think this challenge is.
What is the purpose of that money, right? What utility are you getting from it sitting in a bank account, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough to measure that. I'm not saying your advisor should recommend the book, but like, I love the book Die with Zero.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I love the idea of like living now and letting people enjoy those gifts now and that type of stuff, because at a certain point in time, like, it's diminishing returns the older that you get. And it depends. Everybody's got different goals, but I think the people who come into 29, their goal is to be living right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to get that return on that investment, that grit that they're building. They get that return for the rest of their life, because if you could be that person in that moment, you could always be that person in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Die with Zero is a great book. I've tried to get Bill on. I haven't been successful yet, but recommend that a lot. Talk a little bit about, this is something I was curious. So you have two partners in this. A lot of our advisors have partnerships. How have you guys kind of split responsibilities? And then how do you manage maybe that relationship between the three of you if you have kind of different ideas or objectives around it?
I think the first thing is our partnership has worked out very well, and I'm just one of the three speaking. But I say, if you sell a business together and you decide to all buy it back together, things are working well. Right?
Yep.
What I would say is, the first key for me is being self-aware. If I was in my 20s, this would probably not be a successful partnership, because I wouldn't have been self-aware enough and mature enough to understand the superpower that Colin has, or the superpower that Jesse has, and then my highest and best use in when to put them in the spotlight, right? And ego gets in the way of a lot of partnerships. And I think it's like alignment from the very beginning of like what we wanted, what success looked like from the very beginning. There was very clear alignment. And then understanding that like not everyone is the best at everything. And so I'm the only operating partner, right? Jesse and Colin don't operate. They have day-to-day responsibilities. And I want their input. It would be weird if I didn't have their input, but it's up to me to run the business. I'm the CEO, right? And so I'm the only operating partner, but they're better speakers than I am. They're better at awareness creation. They're great visionaries. And so lean into that. And I think where a lot of partners struggle is when it'd be easy for me to look and be like, well, I want to be Jesse. I want to be the guy that's on stage. Or I want to be Colin, the ones inspiring people by doing all these adventures. Well, it's like, no, you have those guys. Let them do what they're best at. And how do I leverage it in the things that I'm best at? So I think for me, it's been liberating to kind of be like, well, those guys, how can I just have them do more at what they're great at and me not try to be that person, right? Like, I don't, and I think in partnerships, it's where I see them fail is when you have one guy who's maybe the rainmaker, and he's the guy that everyone wants to invest in, invite to the dinners, take on vacation, invite to the Masters. He's the scratch golfer. And then you got the guy who's good at putting together all the analytics, and he's running the trade desk where he's building the team, and he gets jealous and he wants to be the rainmaker. And it's like, you guys don't realize how great a partnership you have because you're able to do the thing that the other guy isn't good at. And so I think that for me is what's worked so well here is me being self-aware enough that I have two superstars, let them go do what they need to do. And quite frankly, I don't know that they would call me a superstar, but they let me operate the business. They don't get involved in the business. They say, hey, it's working. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think that trust that we have really works well.
Did you know that going into it, or was that something like, as you guys have worked through some of that, you figured it out?
I knew what I'd messed up in the past. So I was willing to have the hard conversations up front of like, hey, this is my expectation of you in both sides.
Yep.
Right? Like when Jess and I first started, then when we brought on Kyle, I was like, here's what I want you to do. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm going to operate the business. Don't ask me any questions. It wasn't that, but it was like, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is my role and responsibilities. This is what I'm expecting of you. And by the way, what's your definition of success? Are we building this company because we want to make hundreds of millions of dollars? Are we building this because we want cash flow? Are we building this for impact and philanthropy? Are we building this to be a lifestyle business or our kids can potentially work at it? Like, we had all those discussions up front. So there wasn't any surprises when it was like, why aren't we doubling in size? Or why aren't we expanding into new verticals? Or why aren't we doing those things? It's like, well, that's not what we set out to do originally. And that doesn't mean you don't revisit this stuff every couple of years.
Sure.
But I think there was very clear alignment from the beginning of roles and responsibilities and what success looked like, which helped mitigate a lot of conflicts that I see when people don't have those conversations early on.
Yeah, that's great advice. As you have, one of the things I see with a lot of, I'll just say, let's say businesses, talk about it in that context, is great when it starts, unique, feels very personalized, handcrafted community, but then as it scales, it starts to lose some of that feel. What are some things that you've done to make sure you've protected that? Because it doesn't, if anything, it actually appears like it's gotten better, as you've actually scaled this thing. How have you intentionally gone about making sure that you kept that like personalized feel as you scaled this to more and more events and more people and volunteers and all the stuff that goes in with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, 9 is a hell of a lot more than 1.
Yeah.
But it's not 75. And we've had opportunities to franchise the brand, to partner, to take in equity partners, private equity, expand like crazy. And it would remove, or I think it's the soul of this, right? And so I think it's sticking to what success looked like. For me now it's about, hey, it's about longevity, right? It's about that same level of impact for as long as possible. And in some of that, if we stayed at 3 or 4 events, we would self-cannibalize because we had so much repeat rate. No one knew we'd get to do this. So it's trying to find the right way to be like, well, how can we ensure new people get to come into our community and take on these challenges? How can we address the demand from alumni and them wanting to go to new locations, right? And stay true with the initial objectives of this business which were much more about impact and longevity of the business than it was about scale and growth and profits, right? And so I think it's being true to yourself and kind of calling each other out as partners, but even, on my leadership team, saying, hey, like you said, we weren't going to go for this. It feels like we're shifting into, a profit mode. Why is that, right? And I think it's great to create a culture where you can have those open conversations and ensure that confusion and even worse, resentment doesn't build start to vary.
You said something interesting about losing the soul, and I was just listening to this podcast with Todd Graves, who's the founder of Raising Cane's, and he said that. He's like, I don't ever want to sell the business. This is what I'm passionate about. He's like, if you look at almost any of my competition, the founder doesn't own the business anymore, right? And he's like, it's typically owned by some big private equity company who's trying to optimize, for profitability. I hadn't sent you this question, so this is going to be a little off the grid. But I remember you guys had sold it, and then you ended up buying it back. Walk me through like that process. What made you think that you wanted to sell it, and then what made you decide like, no, let's go ahead and buy this thing back? Like, I say that because I see a lot. Funny, we have an advisor who sold his business. His 3 years, he had to work there, ran up. Now he's got a 1-year non-compete, and he's like, I can't wait to start it all over again. I don't know why I ever sold the business, But I think it's like, well, I get a big check. That's kind of why he sold the business. So just maybe walk people through that who are like trying to process that maybe in their own business.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, the vision in creating this was not to build a business, to sell it, right? And I think that what's interesting about entrepreneurship is when you focus so much on the product and the customer and the things that we do, that opportunities just start coming your way. And at the time and point that we sold the business, we had to operate in an event in almost 2 years. We held events in 2019. COVID happened in 2020. We sold the business in April of 21. So we're going up on almost 2 years since the last event that we had held. And the uncertainty that was existing around COVID, is there going to be another wave? There's all these types of things, was one in which, hey, you had a strategic buyer and we had non-negotiables. I have to stay on a 3-year, 3-year guaranteed deal. I'm going to get to still run the business, trying to make sure we had alignment in terms of the growth of the brand and those types of things. And so to me, it felt like it aligned with the longevity play, right? Of like, well, if variants come back, like how much can Jesse and I continue to self-fund this business that can't operate right now? So that was a little self-preservation, right? We weren't desperate. It was an incredible opportunity to partner with an unbelievable company, iFit, who owns Nordic Track. There's a lot of alignment there. There's a lot of vision alignment we were excited about. And, over the course of the next year to year and a half, I saw an opportunity where it was going to feel better if we could own and manage it again. Mm-hmm. And they were great partners, and we found a great way, and I wish them well, where it was like, look, we're probably going to be able to pursue our vision better on our own. And now an opportunity to buy the business back, and I'm thrilled that we did. And I think, if you look back at that period of time, it was the right move for the business to sell. It was the right move to buy it back. But again, those are conversations with partners about what do we want, right? And it really had to be up to me mostly because I'm running the business, operating it. And I was like, man, I'm unemployable. I'm unhireable. I don't do well reporting to someone, right? And it's being self-aware around what you want. It was like, even if this financially feels risky or other types of things, there's other areas in life that I want fulfillment in, right? It's not about achievement. It's about fulfillment to me. And if I'm getting a lot of fulfillment for being the founder or a co-founder who gets to run this business, I'd rather get to chart my own destiny than remember what someone else who owns this business can do in the future, right? But too overly invested, as I think Colin and Jesse did as well. And so we knew we were the only ones that could protect it for the long term, so we bought it back.
Yeah, that's cool. Any like big lessons you learned through that process?
100%. I mean, I think early on was be very, very clear in what your non-negotiables are. Yeah. Because a lot of time and effort can get wasted if you just don't, just in the very early stages. I think another thing is always expect a retrade, right? Like, don't be surprised when someone tells you one thing and then comes back with a different offer, because there's bank partners, there's private equity partners, there's debt partners. And so the person you're dealing with can have the best of ethics and intentions, but someone else is calling the shots and pulling the strings, right? So I think there were some big boy lessons there. Sleep on everything. I think for me, there was a period of time where I wanted to get too emotional about things, and it was like, if this all goes away, meaning the deal falls apart on both sides, make sure you have a contingency plan. And then I think too many entrepreneurs and business owners focus on what success looks like. What happens if the whole thing falls apart? Most people don't spend enough time on. Yeah. So the downside risk, nothing fell apart here. They were great partners. They stayed out of the way in the business, and we still got to buy it back, right? But man, I could come a list of 100 things now that I never thought about. It could have gone terribly wrong that I never would have thought about, that I wouldn't have control in terms of owning the brand. And that is part of my non-negotiables, right? So yeah, I think those are the lessons I learned. And then in buying it back, I think one of the main things that I learned was selling it was somewhat, I think, even though I said I never wanted to set out to do it, it feels good to say you built and sold a business, right? It feels better to own something that you're truly passionate and care about.
Yeah, that's good.
Something like that, you truly realize what you value. I value the people that I meet, the opportunities that I have to provide people a canvas to paint greatness. Like, that's what I want people to have. You can't put a price on that. It's easy to say you can't put a price on it. Obviously, I wouldn't be saying that if we were a business that was losing money and fundraising all the time. Yeah. But if you're a cash flow positive business and you have a positive impact on the world, it is aspirational, kind of like, what more do you want? And some people want $100 million. They want to fly private. They have different objectives, and I applaud those people. But know what's going to make you fulfilled. And I think in buying the business back, it was my partners allowing me to execute on what I knew I was going to find fulfillment from.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was just at an event last week with John Maxwell, and he said something. He's like, it was kind of around this topic, and he said, what I found in life is typically when you have the opportunity to sell is the worst time, because that's when the real compounding takes place, right? One, wealth compounding. When the business is at a point where someone else wants to buy it, it means it's going really well typically. So your ability to compound wealth, but his was more about just, it's the compounding of the impact you're able to have at that point in time, right? It's like when someone else is attracted to what you've built, that means like you're impacting people. And if you stick to it, that impact is just going to grow substantially. So, which is probably what you started to see in your own business. Let me ask you just maybe one final question here, and then we'll jump into these lightning round questions. You mentioned this earlier. Part of why you've added more events is because you've got such a huge return rate. People that have done it want to come back. So I want to ask you two questions there. Like, are there some specific things that you do to encourage those people to come back? So just how do you generate that repeat business? I know some of it's the community, the achievement, but are there some specific things that you try and do? And then second, what are you doing to try and attract new people into it to continue to grow it?
Yeah, great question. So on the first one, a lot of the things we've done at 29 have been inspired by what works really well and other things, other sporting events and businesses that I am just enthralled. So the Masters to me is the end all be all, like patron experience. I don't even call you fans or spectators. Right? And I think there's signals of status. Theirs is a green jacket, right? So for us, one of the main things is a black bib. Once you finish our event 3 times, you hike in a black bib. You can't buy that, right? You have to earn it on the mountain. And I think one of the main things that we've formulated in the business is that, like, we don't have VIP tickets. We don't have haves and have-nots. We're just rewarding effort on the mountain, right? And so I think when you have people who are flying private to the event and bringing their family, and, the actual event ticket is the cheapest thing they're spending that weekend on.
Yeah.
They're on the same plane for someone who saved money for 12, 18, 24 months to come to the event. They're not getting any more special treatment. And I don't always want to reward those that have finished 3 times, but it's like they've that within the community. And something that's built around a community, you say, hey, look, like, he should get to stand out. Not because he's bought 15 tickets. He should get to stand out because he's climbed all of our mountains and finished them 15 times. So I think that's one thing that's just inspired a lot of people, is to say, like, oh man, like, I want to be a somebody in this community, right? So I think that's one. The second part of the question to Art was one. Sorry, it was.
How are you?
You had a second part.
Yeah. Are you? Yep. Are you doing anything to attract new people in? Like any strategies or tactics to get new people into the event?
So from the very beginning, I think this has all been about storytelling. So it's been content marketing through and through. And so the fact that you pulled out earlier in the podcast talking about 16-year-olds doing the event and 80-year-olds doing the event, it's important to tell those stories and have those people tell the story in their own words, right? So that's written word, that's through video testimonials, and it's sharing those stories as widely as possible. It's doing podcasts like yours, right? I think it's, yes, we just sell out all of our events for this year. We have one event left to sell, which is our trail concept in one location in Park City, which I'm super fired up about. But it's creating awareness, right? And it's giving people an opportunity. I think one of the main things that we do is that we employ 3 people who take phone calls. And so if you're interested in this event, you can actually book a call and talk to a human who, they've all done our events, right? They've all done them a minimum of 3 times. You're talking to someone who is just like you and sat there and was scared and nervous and had the same questions. Which shoes do I wear? And how hard is the training? And what do I do if I live in Florida or Kansas and there's no mountains? Well, spoiler alert, 95% of the people that do our events don't live in the Rockies.
Yeah.
Right? They want to go to the Rockies to do something, but they live in a flat part of the country. And so having someone you can actually talk to and have a conversation with and understand the product and the community that you're buying into, I think is really helpful. So we're curating that all year long. And so I'm very humble in the fact that, yes, our events have seen tremendous demand, but we are constantly fostering that community, both from alumni perspective, where I think we invest just a lot in those relationships. And that's natural, right? I hike half the events or more than half the events a year. I know Thomas Edley so well because I spent dozens of hours with him in the rain, in the cold, in the heat, climbing mountains. And so you actually have real relationships with people that build, you stay in touch with them, and they refer me to great people like Thad, and great people then connect me to people like you. And I think it's just being open to those conversations and not being arrogant and instead of being like, oh, people are going to come to us. I think it's constantly sharing those stories and then being open-armed and welcoming to those who want to join our community.
Yeah, there's so much people can learn, and I would just encourage everyone to like follow what you all do, right? Because it is the ability to tell that story and the challenge and the community, and there's a lot to what you're doing well, but just I think as people watch and observe that, a lot of things that they can apply. So I'm going to ask this final question, then jump into these lightning round questions with you. But so if someone's listening to this and they're ready for the challenge, but then they get that little like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, what would be your best, like, kind of nudge or push you would give them?
Yeah, don't overthink it. There's something in this event, challenge, community, whatever it is sitting with you. Answer the call. Like, lean in. Like, at some point in your life, you just have to trust in others. And I think what this event and challenge and the challenges that we put on has done more than anything is kind of showcase like people want to help people, right? And we're too disconnected from each other. It's too easy to argue with each other, take opposite sides when you're just on a phone, right? And you don't connect enough with a real human side and all the feelings that come from signing up for something and being nervous and being scared about it, right? I've been married for almost 20 years. I forgot what it's like to be nervous and like have to ask out a girl, right? And so it allows you to have those same types of feelings of like, is this going to go well? How's it going to be? I think you want to find those things out. If you're listening to this and you're curious, reach out and book a call with our team. Like just Google the numbers 29029, check out our website and trust that you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to get a renewed faith in that there are good people in this world, and what you can accomplish will far exceed what you think you're able to do just sitting there today.
That's cool. Yep. And I've seen it up close with so many people here. So that's great advice. So let me hit these lightning round questions with you. We ask at the end of every episode. So first one is this. As you look back over the past, let's say, couple years, is there a lesson that you've either learned, like a new lesson, or maybe a lesson that has been reinforced for you that you know you're going to carry forward for the rest of your life?
Yeah, to me, it's all about energy. So I make a list. I've been making a list this year of things that give me energy and things that take them away. The things that take them away, I either need to stop doing, delegate, or fix somehow in my business. The things that are giving me energy, I need to be doing more of, right? And I need to be optimizing for those things that give me energy. And that's just something that for too long, you maybe don't realize at the end of the day why you're tired or in your bad mood. You were doing a lot of things that you didn't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And you're not privileged to give them all away. But I think if you own in business and you're running the P&L, it's kind of incumbent upon you to figure out what types of things are giving you energy and taking them away and solving for them. So that's the one that's been great for me.
That's great. And I think too, as an entrepreneur, business owner, realizing that the more time you spend in those areas that are your strengths, like the better the business is going to be too. So that's a really good one. Okay. Second question. What was the one thing that you did that graduated you from being, I'm going to say good leader, but take good however you want to say it, good entrepreneur, to a great leader entrepreneur?
Admitting when I'm wrong, being self-aware about those things that I've got wrong, and setting the example of ultimate accountability, right? I tie all those together, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, you want to hold people that report to you and employees accountable, but if they're messing up, a lot of it's probably because you didn't create an environment for them to ask the questions or feel okay failing. And I think it's gone a long way for me to build trust with my team of just holding up my hand when I get things wrong. and trying to create an environment where it's okay to mess up, so long as it was with the right intentions, carrying us and trying to do the right thing. So that's the thing I don't know that I'd say I'm a great leader, but I want to be great. I think one of the ways you get there is from being very self-aware and authentic to a T. And so I do not let resentment build. And if something is bothering me, we're going to talk about it right away. So
that's good. Good one.
Goes a long way.
Okay, third one. This will be an interesting one. So obviously you've kind of made a life and career out of challenging yourself, but is there something that you're going to do in this coming year to drive your own personal growth that you're excited about?
For sure, yes. I mean, last year was learning guitar, right? And I'm still not exactly where I want to be, but I play every day and I've learned a new skill, and that was hard to do in life. There are some leadership challenges I have for myself within the business that I'm tackling in the next year, which is going to be addressing those things that I made a list of for the year, taking away energy. And I need to figure out, are they skills that I can learn? Are they skills that we can outsource? Do I need to hire for them? Or does the business need to pivot slightly in a direction where those things are less of a pull on my energy? But it's one thing to create the list. It's another to actually create the plan. And so implementing the plan and ensuring that I'm spending way more of my time doing the things that are bringing me energy is super important to me.
Cool. That's a good one. The fourth question, what is the one book that you've recommended probably most to other entrepreneurs?
The Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Oh, yeah.
So Naval is just incredible, and he did this series of tweet storms years ago, and a young kid put it into a book. And it's literally just tweet storms and podcast appearance that Naval was on. And I just think there's so many lessons that he has about maximizing leverage, maximizing all the different types of capital, how to spend your time, how to leverage relationships. And he has a lot about fulfillment over achievement that I really like. And I think it helps put things into perspective from someone who's been incredibly successful, but also has a ton of balance, doesn't take meetings, doesn't do anything that doesn't, give energy to him. And I think being able to operate like him is not probably reasonable, but if you could get half the way there, you have some great lessons that I think are applicable to any entrepreneur at any stage of life.
Yeah, that book has not been recommended, which is crazy to think, but that is a great one. A friend gave it to me probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. So great advice. Okay.
That one multiple times a year.
Yeah, no, that would be a good, it kind of made that note, like I need to go back and reread that. So, okay, final question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I have a friend who, when I was in my 30s and started as an entrepreneur, I felt like I was competing for everything. And it's just, this piece of advice is filtered over in so many areas of my life, but the gentleman from Southern Alabama just goes, "Mark, it's a big cup. We can all drink from it." And that's like really simple, right? But as I started thinking about it, it was so much about an abundance mindset, and so much shifted in my life when I started realizing, like, cheer up other people's wins. You'll know what they did to get there.
Yeah.
It's not, why is Cody successful? Why is this happening for Zebly? It's, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. That is awesome for you, right? And it changes things when you start thinking about, like, all the opportunity in this world. Why am I focused on this one competitor? It doesn't matter. Just do my thing really well. There's a much powerful piece of advice for me, is it just shifted my whole mindset around building a business, competition, opportunities that exist, and really opening my aperture to just how much there is in the world and how much more you can get out of cheering other people's wins and not thinking so much about why isn't it you, or is that opportunity taken away from me. It's not a zero-sum game, I truly don't believe. Certainly things like the stock market, but there's not always someone sitting on the other side of the trade that's losing, right? And I think it's just been an important thing that has certainly shaped with the most valuable contribution I think I've had, other than my relationship with my wife and kids, which is 29 out of 29. So much of the ethos of it is like, hey, this is a big cup. We can all drink from it. We could all get better through this community and brand that we built.
Yeah, great advice. It's funny. I have that conversation with so many of our advisors. Sometimes they see competition, but then I'm like, man, there's 3 of you in the same town that are all having record years, right? There's so much wealth out there to go capture. So, Well, Marc, I appreciate the time, and I didn't say this in the beginning, but the impact that you've had on our community, I would say team members. We've had so many team members that have done it, but so many advisors that have went and done it, and all would talk about how it's really changed their life. So for those that maybe get the itch to join you on the mountain or just want to at least study what you all are doing, what's the best way for them to kind of follow your journey, the 29029 journey?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a unique name, Marc Hodulich. So if you Google me, you'll find 29. My Instagram where we do a lot of storytelling.
Yeah.
And then it's just the numbers 29029, and Google that. Our email, our website is 29029everstein.com. And I would just encourage everybody listening, like, put something big on your calendar. It doesn't have to be our event, but put something on your calendar that scares you next year, that you're going to look back at 2026 and be like, I did that, right? I know what I did in 2017 was an Ironman. I know what I did in 2018 was a 100-miler. I know what I did in 21 was the first time I actually did 20 out of 29. It's hard for me to tell you what I did in 2015. It's hard for me to tell you what I did in 2023. Put something on your calendar that a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades from now, you can look back and say, that's something that I did. And that investment that I made of time and energy has paid off for the next, 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's good advice. So it's been fun watching the journey, and I hope everyone will follow along. Marc, again, really appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. Take care, bud.